Comment section's gonna be really fun on this one. Super fun. So, thanks guys. Hello everyone and welcome to One Shot Counts, the channel where I review films and people enjoy it and somewhat and somehow. So today I will be reviewing the film Solo, a Star Wars story, and it will be spoiler-free review, and I feel like this one's gonna have a lot of traction for it, such as I feel like people are gonna watch this video and come to me and go, what did you think? These will be my full reviews, so yeah. If you haven't guessed, I love Star Wars. Kinda like Star Wars. Actually, you can't see right now, but this room is full of Star Wars shit. I love Star Wars. Let's just get that out of the way first. Star Wars: A Han Solo Story is the film directed by Ron Howard, but went through production hell. I think everybody who is watching this review actually knows what went on behind the scenes, such as the two directors leaving and a rewriting of the script, and about 90% of the film being reshot over probably the last 12 months, and has probably been the most stressful production process for that poor director. Solo is the story about how Han Solo became Solo. That's it. That's what this film is. It's just a prequel that nobody asked for, nobody wanted, because nobody wants any more prequels. Can we bloody stop it now, Disney? Let's move forward and not move backwards. I'm just saying. I'm gonna break this review down into 3 parts. The things I loved, the thing I found and the things that I did not like about it. Because there's some stuff that I have to nitpick, but there's also like a grander scale which I loved, but there's also just some terrible underlining tones to this film that I have to tell people about. Let me start with the things I love. I loved the action. The action in this film is just basically non-stop. Like, you go from one set piece to another, and it's fun. Like, when you're in the moments of the action, you're like, oh, that's really fun, this is really enjoyable, and you kind of get into it. But the things leading into the action sequences, such as the story, doesn't exist. I'll get onto that in a bit later. I also love the Han and Chewie chemistry. Aaron Aldenreich and the guy who plays Chewbacca, you can see their relationship start to spark, and you can see how they grow into becoming the best known pair in the galaxy. This film does kind of start that little kindling of, oh, let's start this here. This is where it all began. You can feel it. It doesn't feel forced. They don't feel crap. They're not terrible at the job. So actually, the chemistry between Han and Louis, Louis? Who's Louis? You won't be disappointed, trust me. I actually walked away from this film going, huh, I feel like the characters now carry more weight to them because I know where they began. So when you go back and watch A New Hope, Empire, what have you, you will have more of a connection to them because you know where they began. So actually, for that point, the film kind of nailed that on the head in the sense that you love these characters more because you know where they began. The other thing I truly loved about this film is Donald Glover as Lando, because oh my god, so good. That's all I'm gonna say. Just go watch this film. I can't recommend it any more than Donald Glover being Lando. Go. For that reason, go and see this film. Now, these are the things I found like they're in the middle, like they're not terrible and they're not awful, but they're not brilliant and amazing that I can class them as fantastic. You're probably thinking coming into this film, did this guy actually do the character Han Solo justice? No, but he brought his own twist of the character, because if you think about it, there's been at least 20 years between Aaron Aldenreich being Han Solo and Harrison Ford being Han Solo, so he's got that like good 20-year gap to become the person who he becomes in A New Hope. So personally, I actually say that Aaron Aldenreich didn't do that badly. I didn't actually hate his version of Han Solo. I really loved it. There were moments in this film and you're like, huh, that's Han Solo. I know who you are. But there are moments where you're also like, I have no idea what this person's doing. Like, why are you here? But actually, the man was tasked with such a horrendous challenge. He didn't do that badly. And generally, the entire cast isn't too bad as well. Woody Harrelson, who I actually don't like as a human being, he actually kind of annoys me, but his character, lovable, kind of good. He sticks to the scoundrel code, as it were, and he fulfills his whole character traits of being who he is as a scoundrel or bounty hunter. Emilia Clarke's character is also kind of twisted. You don't quite know where her morals are at. That's something I actually hated throughout the film. I don't actually know where she's going with all this. Because in this film is just full of scoundrels and people who will betray each other, and they do. That's not a plot, that's not a spoiler, I'm just saying that. They're all people who have had a twisted past, so they do twisted things so they keep themselves safe. Those are the things I found these are the things I disliked, as it were. I'm not gonna say hate, it's too strong a word, but I disliked about this film, so heads up. This entire film relies on you seeing the first original series, trilogy, to get the references. There's no story to this thing. Like, there's a story, but there's no story. There's no plot, mainly. Like I said earlier, it's going from action piece to action piece to action piece, and the things that tether it together are just this thin spider web of dialogue and story. That's the best way I've got to describe it. That's because you'll walk away from this film going, oh, it was really fun, but there was no point to it. There was no cause to effect to cause to effect. There was just people causing stuff with no effect. There was no consequence for doing anything throughout this entire film. Shit villain. You probably think there are two villains in this film, don't you? Well, they're both shit. They're terrible. Paul Bettany is actually a really good actor. You need to see, I don't know if it's a Ron Howard film or what have you, but it's got Russell Crowe and it's Commander and something, and they're out on the sea, and in that he plays a doctor and he's really good. Like, that's one of his best roles. That isn't Vision, but that's one of his best roles. Paul Bettany is an actor with talent. He is completely wasted in this entire film. As a villain, when he was present, you were like, oh, he's cool. I hope I get to know more about him. As soon as he walks off screen, you forget he exists. He does not matter to the entire film, which is really upsetting, because I love Paul Bettany and I love villains in Star Wars because they can become the most fun things in the entire series, but no, it's waste. It is a complete waste. And this other guy, who you think you have no idea, they just exist to cause that, oh, there's this underlining person who you don't know who they are, but don't worry, they're evil, but they just exist. Terrible, absolutely terrible. I don't know why they were in this. There was point to it, but right up until the end. Pacing does not exist in this film. Like I said before, it goes from action piece to action piece to action piece, and the pacing is awful because you could have two action pieces, literally. There is two action pieces where they are separated by a 3-minute mark. One happens, and then the next happens, with no, like, reason for it to happen. It just happens, and then they go off and it just exists. Every film has a first, second, and third act. This film is made up entirely of that first and third act. There is no middle act where you learn the characters. It just doesn't exist. At one point you're like, oh, okay, this is happening. Oh wait, no, now that's happening. Then the next minute you're like, yeah, I kind of wanted it to be over. You know, like, it just doesn't give you time to absorb what's happening. And the other thing I hate is it did what Deadpool 2 did. If you've seen Deadpool 2, something happens exactly the same in this film. Characters are introduced, and then they're forgotten. And I hate that. Don't make new characters and then forget about them. And they probably will expand the characters that were forgotten about in this entire film, which is basically every character in this film, by the way. They'll turn around and go, we got a comic for that, we got a book for that, we got a video game for that. I'm sorry, that's not justifiable. I wanted to learn about these characters in this film, and I learned shit all. Something kind of big happens in this film, especially for the movies, because in the movies you don't really establish that this thing happens. It happens now in the film, like, it's confirmed in the film universe, and I'm just saying, I don't know why it happened, I don't know why this thing exists, but it's happened and it's not gonna get caused, it's not gonna get finished. It's like if someone wrote a book and then at the last chapter, they started the next chapter of the next book that they're not going to finish. That is the best way to describe what happened at the end of this film, and it annoys me because I wanna know what happens next, but I also wanna know why they did that. There is stuff in this film that happens at the end that I will not know why it happened. And the last thing I'm gonna say about the film, rewatching it is gonna be really hard. Rewatching it, for me, now I've seen it, it was fun and enjoyable, but rewatching it will probably be really hard when it comes out on DVD. I'm gonna rate this film if you must. If you must, go watch it. Okay? But if you're someone who just, like, loves Star Wars or doesn't really care for Star Wars, it's fine. You can ignore this film. This film is for fans. This is a fan service film, and it's yeah, it exists. Before I leave you, you're probably thinking, where would you rank this in all the Star Wars films? And I'm gonna quickly put up my timeline. This is how I rank all the Star Wars films now. Yes, it might be a little bit controversial, some people probably hate me for it, but I would probably put Han Solo here. I just think that's where it sits. I take that as it's better than the prequels, but it isn't better than any of the new stuff that's come before it, all the old stuff. So, anyway, that's Han Solo. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Please let me know. I want to know what people think about this film, because I feel like this film is going to be stupidly divided. I can see why some people are going to like it. I like it for the same reasons, but I can also see why some people are going to hate it, because, it's a bit messy. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Next review, I'm going to try and do 13 Reasons Why. I'm going to get on to that just before the weekend's out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Until then, may the Force be with you.